Hi.
Hi.
So we're here again, Compass Education, Facebook Live for our second time. And today Elena and I thought we would talk more in depth about using Compass tools in the early years classroom. And we wanted to elaborate on what we talked about last week. So I thought I might just ask, and you might like to go back and look at our previous Compass Facebook Live, if you like, which is in the video section of our page. We talked about you using the iceberg in the early years classroom, and I thought that was very interesting. Do you want to tell us more about how you began that and how you got the kids interested in?
Okay, sure. But should we introduce ourselves again?
Oh, yes, of course.
So I'm Elaine Ryman, and I'm working in an early years setting, and like I said last week already as well, that I'm quite new to the Compass Education team and to the group, and beginning to implement Compass Education tools in an early years setting. So this live session between Kate and I is to basically take you along on my journey, but also to use Kate's expertise, who has worked with Compass Education tools for much, much longer. Right from the beginning, right?
Yes.
Anyway.
So, I've been using Compass in the classroom since 2009 when I was a teacher of 4-year-olds, what we called early years 2. And I've used it ever since 2009, so that's 9 years.
Yeah.
I've used it in a variety of classrooms that I've taught in, and I've supported other teachers and held sessions at ERICOS and the one-day Compass workshop and Compass for primary schools and the 2-day level 1 course.
Okay.
And I look forward to leading level 2 soon.
Awesome. So we want to talk today a little bit about ideas, suggestions on how we could use or implement the tools in an early years setting. From what I've read, understood, and looked at, I see that connecting sustainability, it's a pretty big word in an early years setting, is quite difficult, and it's quite easy to brush it off and say, it's too big for the kids, for young kids, they won't get it, doesn't matter, it goes over their head. Children are not developmentally ready to even use metacognition in a way that we think they can.
And some teachers, they want to do it. They want to get sustainability ideas across, or that it's mandated by the school, or that there are projects. But it's how?
Yeah.
Where do I start? Where do I begin?
So where do you begin? That's the question, and that's the key, really. It's about, for me, I think, when I think about sustainability, even raising my own kids or looking at young kids in general, it's about really modeling. It's about modeling the way we use things, the way we think about things, the way we talk about things. How sustainable are we in our everyday practices, and how can we share that with kids? And then in an educational setting, how can we use what we normally do to get other concepts across in the classroom?
Exactly.
How can we use the same strategies to bring about an understanding for sustainability in early years as well? So that's, I guess, the ideas that I'm trying to discover and use and try, fail forward, for lack of a better way. But I think there's no way of knowing without actually trying. So I started in the beginning just putting up the Compass actual tool, the Compass in the classroom. And I actually had the children help me to decorate it. They painted it, and we cut it out together. When I introduced it at first, I just drew it on a whiteboard, and the kids immediately connected it to a treasure map. So I think, and I was thrilled, because that's basically what we're looking at, is trying to connect it with anything that they already know.
Absolutely.
So the compass in and of itself talk about treasure maps, talk about direction, talk about what the symbols mean on there, and that it means north, south, east, west, and then play games. I mean, using like, oh, we're going north, make a map on the floor, and it doesn't matter whether it's really north or not, but you know, you can play games like that, and it's really about exposure to the tool.
And then, it sounds like you're using the environment as a teacher, so bringing just in,
absolutely,
setting it up and letting the kids go with it, and the kids connecting to it with what they already know.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, of course, we had this beautiful poster that we then put up in the classroom. And what I've then done is eventually introduce the language that we actually use on the compass: society, well-being, nature, and economy. But those, of course, are big words, and they're not all gonna get it. But I don't beat myself up about it at all. That's the one thing I don't do. I do use the language in the classroom, and those who kind of click and say, what does that mean, or what's that about, or then you can go a little deeper and you just leave it at that, like you would with any young child. So I've taken photographs or anything that has a connection to what I've done in the classroom or their unit of inquiry or something. I'm always documenting anyway and making little notes and anecdotes and sticking them on the walls. But when it connects to anything specific to the compass, I will add that anecdote to the compass.
Fantastic.
So when we were growing the rice, for example, I talked about nature, and I stuck a picture there for nature. We talked about when they were doing dramatic play and selling things or whatever. I put it in economy. And then you can always just go back to that and reference it again with the children. So yeah, that worked well.
So just really documenting what you would already do in the classroom in a way that starts to get them to think from different perspectives.
Yes, and the kids really love revisiting if it's hung up in a way that they can actually revisit and see it and point to the pictures again. That's when it's that reiteration that gets the kids thinking and talking about it. So and sometimes they don't. There's kids that don't give a hoot, and they don't know what it is, and a mom will come by and have a look at the wall and talk about it, and the kid doesn't know. That's just where they are in their level of thinking and their level of development, and that's okay. But
it's really impressive to see a display. When I started at Prem in 2009, the teacher that I took over from, the 4-year-old teacher, had a display, and she had compassed tools. And she had tools that were used in nature and tools that were used for your well-being. And I'm not sure what the unit was on, but that moment I thought that is so cool that these 4-year-olds last year were thinking at such a high level that the teacher was having them do this. And that's what prompted me to think, you know what, this is totally possible with 4-year-olds. Exposure.
Definitely exposure. And I mean, even as adult learners, we've been learning things throughout our lives, and you know for yourself, you have a click moment or an aha moment. I mean, and then it's clicked because of something you've read before, or you've put 2 and 2 things together, and that will happen for them too. And all we want to do is expose them to the language, expose them to the images, expose them to the concepts. Whether they get it now or whether they get it in grade 2 or grade 3, I mean, it really doesn't matter when, but they will eventually. It will make connections. Something I would really like to highlight at this point, though, is that I think collaboration is crucial. So in bigger teams, I think it's absolute essential that you as a team are on board about what is being used in the classroom. Just like any framework that's being used. In our school, we're using the IBPYP framework. So everybody's on board about what language we use, about what we're looking for assessments and things like that. Everybody should be on board with understanding and using the compass, or any of that language, or anything to do with the sustainability developmental goals. Things like that, so that we're all aware that this is something we can bring up, this is something that we can prompt, and that I find is, without that common understanding, it can be quite difficult. In a play-based, I'm talking about a play-based setting, right? If I have just my 4 walls, my 4 classrooms, I can produce that and implement all of that myself. But in play-based, where we have open doors and kids are running around everywhere, I think you really need to have a collaborative great relationship with your team in order for it to work.
And there's a lot of evidence that suggests that that would be the way to go. We, at Prem, it was used throughout the whole school. And so when it is used throughout a whole school, it is really amazing because the kids' understanding grows exponentially with each year that they come across the concepts. And in January of 2017, I think, the Australian International School, Jakarta, brought in a team of Compass workshop leaders, which I was a part, and they were training their whole staff. So that idea that if we can all be using this language is really important.
Yeah, that's vital.
Do you want to talk? Speaking of collaboration, there's a lot of collaboration around the global sustainability goals and using the global TED Ed.
Oh, the
teddy bear.
Yes, the teddy bear. Global Ed TED, or the global, I don't remember, the traveling teddy bears, the global traveling teddy bears, I believe. You can check it out online. If you type in global traveling teddy bears, you'll probably find it. It's an initiative, I think, was started by a lady named
Pana.
And she, she has, first it was just, I think, a few teddy bears traveling around the world, but this year in particular, she has connected each teddy bear. Now there's 17 teddy bears, I believe, traveling around. So each teddy bear is connected to one of the sustainability goals. And this year I signed up for the teddy bear, and we received Daisy the bear, and Daisy was with us for about 10 days. And her goal was goal number 2, zero hunger. And it happened to coincide with opening a new cafeteria at our school as well.
Wow.
So it was really like perfect timing. So I was able to kind of have those conversations with the kids about food, wasting food, healthy food, what that looks like. And we've been trying to reiterate over and over again about packing healthy snacks and so on. But this time, I mean, for children, anything tangible, a toy, it just opens up doors to magic. So we have our little teddy bear, and I would, go around with the bear and talk to the kids about their healthy snacks that they got. And I'm sure Daisy would really like it. And it's just a really nice, tangible object that was helpful at that point to actually get across the understanding of what they got out of it is the understanding of the word hunger.
That's amazing.
And hungry. So we were able to kind of distinguish between those two words. And again, it wasn't like the whole early childhood center that got it. There's a few kids, but you know what? A few kids for me is already a thumbs up.
And you were saying how deep the idea, like hunger, just not like I'm hungry, but hunger
is I'm hungry, but when I go home, there's still no food.
Yes.
Right?
Like that hunger is sustained when we're talking about zero hunger.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, we always have to have something to eat, but that there are people around the world
who feel really, really hungry, but they don't have that food to eat.
Yeah.
So, that was really insightful. In fact, one of our little friends did a little interview on our TV show that we have running at the school, and it was just great the way she was able to even just use those words and talk about how being hungry and having a sore tummy and everything. And she's only 4, so do you know what I mean? That's what I mean. It's just about exposing them to the language, and don't be shy. Don't be shy. I mean, some get it, some don't, but as long as it's, I think it's not mandated by our program that we have to implement these. It doesn't need to be, it doesn't have to be assessed in any way. So just relax and use the words, use the vocabulary, use the toys. And I, in fact, think to piggyback on that idea of the teddy bear, you could have your own. You pick developmental goals that you want to highlight within your school. Maybe your school has it in their strategic plan that you want to have something to the regard of a meeting, some ways, ticking those boxes for meeting. And you can do that right from early years as well. You have a teddy bear in your classroom related to goals. Think of creative ways of using it. I've used teddy bears, also an idea from a great friend of mine, Carla, Carla Holmes from Beyond Conventional Wisdom. We used teddy bears for the learner profile in the past, and looked at assigning each bear a learner profile, and using the bear to sit next to you when we see you using the profile. Same thing for the goals. I saw you ate all your dinner yesterday, all your lunch, you have healthy snack. Daisy wants to sit next to you,
And so you've taken something, a routine that you have done before, and you've adapted it very similarly to sustainability thinking.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of times what we're saying at workshops is that doesn't have to be something new and on top. A lot of times it can be the compass way of thinking through the lenses of nature, society, economy, well-being, can help you get to the things, the standards that you need to meet anyway. Like in an IB setting, you want your students to be principled. I'm sure when you're talking about zero hunger and zero waste, that's a good way to bring in principle too, that the bear can also help you do both things. Absolutely.
I think that's one of the easiest ones to actually address in an early year settings, the hungry one. I think they do that quite well, and that's one they will pick up quick. But there are others that I think can be done. We were actually having a conversation about that today in our meetings. Anyway, what else have I done in the early years, and where else can we connect it to?
So you've talked about just putting the compass up in the classroom, and then whatever you're doing, you can document the activities in your classroom in the different sections, and maybe even make connections, because a lot of times growing the rice is out in nature, but it's also economy. Like, is that rice going to be sold or traded for something? What's going to happen to the rice? It might be a societal thing or a group thing. It was this group of kids that worked on planting the rice. So you might make those connections and tell that story. And then second, you talked about using the global teddy bears to bring in the ideas from the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And another thing you talked about, I think previously, that I asked in the beginning, is about the iceberg.
Correct. Now, the iceberg is actually a tool that I think requires quite a great amount of metacognitive abilities, and for an early years setting can be, of course, quite difficult. So there's no expectation that kids will be able to use that. I think as you go older, as they get older, obviously in higher grades, but they might be able to. You said, I think in grade 2 already they do get it, right?
We did use
so
it,
if we're looking at wanting kids to actually get it by grade 2, I think there is always an opportunity to start implementing the idea of an iceberg in an earlier setting. And that might only mean them making connections to a story or a movie. I mean, when I drew an iceberg on the board, and they looked at it, they immediately said, Happy Feet, I think it was, that they connected to an ice age. So, and then we talked about that, and I could put the movie on I didn't play the whole movie, but capture the section in the movie where you can actually see the iceberg. You can talk about how the shrimp are swimming underneath, and look how big it is down the bottom. You just bring into their awareness the size of an iceberg, what looks out the top and what looks out the bottom, right? And even when they're drawing,
what can be seen and what
cannot be seen, exactly. And that's if you get that far, that's all you need. You don't need to do massive. You could actually do even to connect it to science, right? And float a big chunk of ice in water and see what happens and things like that. So there's lots of ways you can make those little connections and highlight how much ice is below versus on top, so that later when they come back around to reflecting in grade 1, grade 2, kindergarten, whatever it might be, that it's not a foreign concept to them at all. So in doing that little activity, when I did it, I noticed that the more capable students in kindergarten were able to kind of get the thinking a little bit better.
And one thing that I've thought about that I haven't done before would be to read a picture book, like if you give a moose a muffin, or if you give a pig a pancake, that
good
series
idea.
by Laura Joff Numeroff.
Yeah.
You can really look at, so the iceberg at the top, what can be seen are the events. Underneath that, under the water, are the patterns that you can see. So that's where people do sometimes behavior over time graphs. Below that section is the structures that support those patterns and the
eventually the events.
Events, exactly. And below the structures are the mental models. And it's what we want to lead kids to be able to do is to look at the mental models of what's the thinking behind the event.
Yeah.
Because then we can get at the root. So when we're thinking about sustainability, a lot of times we don't just want to change the event, we want to change
what's
the
below.
mental model.
Right. What's below. But there needs to be an understanding that below is big. There's way more below than there is above. And I think just the visual image of that is already helpful.
Absolutely.
If kids get exposed to that.
So I hope you've enjoyed this. We've gone through 3 ways that you could use Compass Education tools in the classroom. 1, displaying it and documenting your learning in the Compass. 2, you can use the sign up for the Global Ed TED. And 3, start introducing the concept of an iceberg, that there are things that we can see and things we can't see. But just because we can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. And that we have to investigate and inquire further.
Yeah. So we would love to hear from you. If you have any further questions, ideas you want to share. Like I said, this is actually pretty new for me in my journey in using sustainability thinking in early years classrooms, but at the same time I think it's quite new for many schools, because I have yet to find any research that talks about sustainability in early years classrooms. So I might be ignorant, but I hope I'm not. If you do have ideas, please share them. Please like our video, and also send in any questions in the comments below that we would love to respond to. And share your ideas too. Would be great. Thank you.
Or suggest any topics for upcoming Compass Facebook Lives. We will have another one coming up in 2 months' time, or 3 months, and Compass Education will tweet out about that and advertise it on Facebook, and that should be with other educators. So we won't see you next time, but other passionate Compass educators will be seeing you soon. Suggest your topics.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye.